I like to use a variety of psychological pricing tactics when I price things on eBay. There's really three big ones that I use. Hey, new intro. I was getting a little sick of that orange intro from before. Let's jump into a few viewer questions. Jeremy Robinson asked, do you collect receipts from garage sales for tax purposes at the end of the year? Yeah, so when I go to a garage sale and I buy something, I ask the person for a receipt and then I stare at them directly into their eyes for as long as it takes until they get uncomfortable and go inside and write me a receipt for the stuff I just bought. No, I'm just kidding. I don't ask for a receipt at garage sales. I just record the cost. I record the price that I pay for whatever I buy at a garage sale. I keep good records. You should do the same thing. You can write it down in a notebook. You can put it in a spreadsheet. I put my purchase price into Flipwise and track it that way. Doesn't matter how you do it, but you do want to record that purchase price. When tax season comes around, you want to lower your taxable income. So if eBay reports that you sold $20,000 worth of stuff over the year, you want to report your fees and your shipping costs and your cost of goods. You want to lower that gross income from $20,000 all the way as low as you can get it. And you do that by reporting accurate numbers for your cost of doing business. And so that's your purchase price, that's your shipping fees, that's your platform fees, anything else, your boxes, everything else, your mileage, any money you're spending to run this business, you want to write that off on taxes, including the purchase price for stuff you buy at garage sales. But nobody expects that people at garage sales are going to write receipts for you. Just keep a ledger, keep a record of all of it. All right, Jay Sharon, hope I'm saying that right, asks, Justin, how old are you and how long have you been selling on eBay? So thanks for asking. I'm 42 years old. I've been selling on eBay since the 90s, really, since I was in high school. And you used to have to write checks to buy stuff. And when you sold something, you have to wait for a check in the mail and you'd have to deposit that check. And once it cleared, this is pre-PayPal or any of that sort of digital payment stuff. And so it's pretty crazy selling stuff on eBay back then. I never really sold things on eBay seriously up until probably the mid 2010s, 2012, 13, 14, somewhere around that time. That's when I started selling a lot more consistently. But over the last, 25 plus years, I've been selling stuff on eBay. That's like more than half my life. That's kind of crazy. All right, let's jump into my sales this week. Keep in mind, I'll be answering more reader questions sprinkled throughout all of these top 10 sales. So stick around if you want to hear those as well. And if you have any questions for me to answer in next week's video, just leave them down below and I will answer them. So this week looks like I had $918 of gross income and $548 of net income. I had over a 1,500% ROI, super high, and a 55% net profit margin. So net profit margin is pretty high too. That usually runs at about high 40s, low 50s. ROI is much higher than it normally is. My average ROI is about 600%. So I'm selling a lot of things that I purchased very cheaply. That's what that's telling me. Looks like I had 29 new listings this week and 23 sales. My goal for the week is 35. So I was just shy of my goal by about 6 and 23 sales. Usually I sell 1-to-1. That doesn't mean that everything I list in a given week sells in that week, but I have enough of a backlog that typically I sell about as many things as I list. But this tells me eBay has been pretty slow. And I know from talking to a lot of y'all that sales have been slow for you too. I think this is just a pretty slow time on eBay, and it is for me as well. But yeah, 23 sales. I would have expected at least 6 to 10 more sales than I got this week, but that's okay. My average time to sell here was 3 months, and the total amount that I spent on new inventory over the past week was $121. Coming in at number 10 is this Pyrex Flameware Glass Stovetop Percolator Coffee Pot Lid. Y'all remember last week I sold one of these exact percolators, this coffee pot that I got at a garage sale. I sold it for like $70. This lid here came with the exact same unit that I had bought about 4 months ago. It had 2 lids, and so I just separated one of those lids and sold it separately. It sold for $26.98 for the 10th best flip of the week. My net return on it was $16.60. I've got $1 cost of goods into that. Coming in at number 9 is this Sony digital photo picture frame dealio. I got it for $5 at an estate sale. It sold for $34.99. Net return of $20.10 and a 402% ROI. This thing, it was only $5. I plugged it in pretty quickly just to make sure it would work, and it did. A Sony digital frame like this, not a super high dollar item, but I knew it would sell. It did take 4 months, which is a little bit longer than I was expecting, but Sony obviously is a great brand, and this is a good category to buy in. Likely what happened is someone broke theirs or it stopped working or whatever, and they wanted the exact same one again, and here it was. So happy to get this one out the door. All right, Cinnamon Chivers asks, hi there, thank you for your content. I always learn something new. You're welcome. My question is, how do you check comps at garage sales? I always feel so uncomfortable in front of the homeowner. Yeah, me too. I usually don't check comps at garage sales. Sometimes I do, but typically garage sale prices are so cheap that it's a good opportunity to just build up your skill of trying to identify good deals and just winging it, going by your gut. So I do that a lot at garage sales. If somebody wants $1 for something, like take the risk, don't worry. Don't try to talk them down. Just take the risk. Don't need to look it up. If somebody's charging a lot of money for something, then I will look it up. And I'm not really obvious about it. I don't hide it, but I also don't sit in front of the homeowner and just like blatantly look up stuff in front of their face. I feel like that's kind of rude. Sometimes you'll see people at garage sales who like plump down in front of a box of books and start scanning all of them. Like, I think that's kind of tacky. I don't do any of that stuff. But if I do need to check something, if it is a lot of money and it is an investment, I will just look it up, and I'll just, kind of walk off a little bit and, be subtle about it, try not to be rude about it, and look it up. And so there's nothing really wrong with it. And at garage sales, I don't proactively divulge that I'm a reseller, but if somebody asks, I'll tell them. I don't mind being honest. And in fact, being honest about it has turned into getting deals for me later. When someone learns that I'm a reseller, I've had people who, oh yeah, I got some other stuff where you might be interested, that type of thing. And so it has worked out in my favor to talk about it. Most people just want to get rid of their stuff. And if they know you're going to pay cash for stuff, they might go into their house and bring some other stuff out that they weren't even thinking about selling. So I would recommend that I don't even remember what your question was. Oh yeah, how you check comps at garage sales. I would just be subtle about it, but also don't do it. Just use it as an opportunity to trust your gut and make purchases, especially if they're cheap, without having to look it up. Coming at number 8 is this vintage Hanes underwear. That's right. I buy and sell vintage underwear all the time. Anytime I see them, I definitely pick them up because they're worth a lot of money. This one was no different. I actually bought 2 of these for $5 each at a garage sale this past weekend. This one sold for $39.98. That's $34.99 plus $4.99 in shipping. Net return for the 8th best flip of the week is $20.84. I'd never buy them loose. You can. I think they do sell out of the package, new. You can't sell them used. I personally stick to only ones that are new in the package. Also, be warned, when you sell these things, you're going to get some weird messages on eBay. Like, for example, I got a weird message when selling this one. This guy from Russia says, "Please tell me, will your white briefs fit me in size? I'm a young, skinny guy, 21 years old. Here's my height and weight. Do you think, won't this underwear be too big for me? I will show you 2 photos." No, I'll stop there. So prepare yourself. If you're selling vintage underwear on eBay, you're going to get some weird messages like this, but they make good money, so I keep doing it. Coming in at number 7 of these Peloton cycling shoes. So Peloton is the brand of cycling equipment where you sit on the stationary bike, you got the big screen in front of you, and you can watch classes from all over the world. They have their own brand of shoes. I bought these at a Savers for $9.25. Took about a month to sell, which is slower than I thought it was going to be. They sold for $44.98. That's a $22.01 net return, 49% net profit margin, and 238% ROI for the 7th best flip of the week. Anytime you see that Peloton brand, it's usually a pretty good idea to pick it up. T-shirts can be kind of cheap. Anything else is definitely a good buy, though. Deb M122 asks, I have about 1,500 items of brand new with Tags clothing. I've been selling for 3+ years. I've been steady listing 10+ every day, and my sales are only 3 to 5 daily. My items are in the middle price range, highly saturated retail clothing, and many with this brand sell low and are a race to the bottom. I promote my listings, run sales, and send offers. I was buying in very large bulk, but haven't purchased anything for 2 months now because of low sales and the length of time it takes to sell. Do you think it would help me start another store or list more daily? Thank you. Really good question. So, your situation here, you've been selling for 3 years, you're selling clothing, new with Tags clothing, you're listing 10+ per day, you're only selling 3 to 5 per day. So that just tells me that the stuff you're selling has relatively low demand. But 3 to 5 per day is still not too bad. And you say it yourself, you're in a highly saturated retail clothing, and many with this brand sell low and are a race to the bottom. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the case. And so I don't think that starting another store is necessarily going to help you in this situation. What will help you the most is to be buying and selling inventory that has a higher sell-through rate. And if you don't have that, then yes, listing more frequently will help that. It's all about listing. The more items you get up on eBay, the more chances you have to sell things. I wouldn't worry about breaking it up into a separate store. The only reason I could see that being a good idea is if you're trying to sell things and attract a repeat audience. And so if you're selling nothing but clothes and then you want to pivot over to, high-end Nike shoes or something, it might make sense to set up a completely separate store for those high-end Nike shoes so that you can try to build a following behind it and not disrupt that audience with stuff that they don't care about. It's sort of similar to starting a YouTube channel. So for example, I do a bunch of reselling content. If I all of a sudden was starting to talk about, laptop repair, that I would lose my audience on that. I wouldn't want to do that on my regular channel. I would want to set up a second channel to talk about laptop repair. I'm not going to do that, so don't worry. But same thing with eBay. So if you're trying to sell something completely outside of the niche you're selling in right now, and you want to build an audience on that, yeah, start another one. But just, starting another store is not going to make sales increase if you're doing nothing else but just starting the other store. So I would just try to list more, get rid of that inventory, and then reconsider whether this is the type of inventory you want to be selling at that sell-through rate, or if you want to try to change things up and sell things that are going to sell a little bit faster. Coming in at number 6 is this Starbucks London, England coffee mug. There was a period of time about 10 years ago where there was a Starbucks craze for mugs, and they were just selling for incredible amounts of money. That market isn't as good now, though it still does exist. I mean, here we sold one for $50.49. That's pretty good for a coffee mug. What do we pay for this thing? Yeah, $2 at a St. Vincent de Paul. Not all Starbucks mugs are good. In fact, most of them are not, but there's still good money to be made with Starbucks mugs out there. Look for ones that are unique, different. If it just has a Starbucks logo on it, it's probably not going to be worth it. Even some of the city mugs aren't good, but those are really hard to tell whether they will be good or not. So I definitely recommend you look them up. This one I knew was going to be probably pretty good because it was a city mug like this, but it was also just different and unique. It was kind of had a 3D effect on the mug. And yeah, it's been a while since I've sold a mug for this amount of money, but I did recently I sold another Starbucks mug that was the FBI building in Washington, D.C. That one went for like $150. And so there is definitely still good money to be made in Starbucks mugs. Coming in at number 5 is this Instant Pot Duo Nova Mini 3. I bought this one at a garage sale. It took 2 days to sell for $54.98. Look at that, a $2 purchase price. I couldn't believe they were only selling this pretty much brand new Instant Pot for $2. That's really the only reason I bought it. I was not expecting it to be worth this much in used condition, but for $2, I was like, yeah, go ahead, why not? That's also just a good example of just don't waste your time looking it up on your phone at a garage sale. It's $2, just buy it, take the risk. But yeah, this thing sold in 2 days for $54.98. The net return on it was $34.58. It's a 1,700% ROI because that cost of goods was only $2. Instant Pot's a good brand. But yeah, that was the 5th best flip of the week. $2 at a garage sale. Crazy. Joshua asks, after a person paid for an item of mine, they quickly sent a message and asked if I could mail the package to a different address in a different state. Would you do this since it's an option Amazon offers, like buying a gift for someone, or is this a scam? So yeah, you get this every once in a while selling on eBay where you'll sell something and immediately get a message saying like, oops, the address was wrong. Can you please send it to this other place? Every time I get asked that question, I say, I'm sorry, but eBay doesn't let me change the address, which might be a lie. eBay probably does let me change the address, but I don't do it anyway. I say, I can cancel this order, relist it, and you can change your address and repurchase it, but I can't change the address. And I just do that because I don't want to run into any issues where eBay's not going to show that it's delivered. And so I might be overthinking this. I might be being too careful, but that's what I do. And I'm sure people that are asking this often are not trying to scam me. They probably put in the wrong address. And often when I do that, 99% of the time, they end up rebuying it and having it sent to the new address. People don't mind having to cancel and redo it again, especially if you just put the blame on eBay and say, yeah, eBay doesn't let me edit it, so let's go ahead and cancel it and you can repurchase it. It just gives me full protection as a seller, and I recommend you do the same thing. Coming in at number 4 is this Adidas soccer jersey from Germany. This is Muller, I guess, is a player. I'm not a big soccer or football fan. I don't know much about it, but I do know a good soccer jersey when I see it. This was definitely a good one. When you're out looking around and you see soccer jerseys, vast majority of the time, they're going to be worth picking them up. One thing you want to look out for is make sure it has like a good brand associated with it, like Nike or Adidas or Puma. There's a lot of reproduction soccer jerseys out there that are sort of brandless, like they don't have any big brand on them. Those can still be worth it. Don't get me wrong. I've bought and sold a lot of those, but they're usually not as good. Like this one sold for $56.98. It did take 2 months, but the net return was $37.80. That's a 540% ROI. $7 at a Salvation Army. Soccer jerseys are just really great. In fact, I picked 3 soccer jerseys up this past weekend at a garage sale. So you'll probably see those popping up on the top 10 list over the next few weeks as well. But yeah, glad to get this one out the door, $56.98. Coming in at number 3, these are really cool. These Heller Max Mug stacking cups. I got these at an estate sale about a month ago for $3. They have a really cool look to them. I think, what definitely told me that these were going to be a good buy. Obviously, they're vintage, but the font on there, really impactful font. This just screams like mid-century. the yellow color. These had the original box. These sold for $54.98, $38.32 on the net return, 70% profit margin, 1,200% ROI. These things are really cool. I knew there was going to be a collector out there who was interested in picking these up. So Thomas asked, what was your thinking on pricing the top item as $103 instead of $99? So Thomas is referencing last week's video when I bought and sold a Ring doorbell camera system it was brand new in the box for $103. And he's asking, why did I price it at $103 and not $99? The reason is I like to use a variety of psychological pricing tactics when I price things on eBay. There's really three big ones that I use. You will probably be familiar with these pricing tactics, even if you don't know what they are, because you're probably also a buyer and a consumer and you run into these as, on that end of things. The first one that I use pretty regularly is called left digit bias. And so that really means you're going to price things just under a whole round number. So if you're selling something for $50, you might use the left digit bias psychological pricing tactic and price it at $49.99, because when someone sees that price, they have a bias towards the far left digit. They're going to see 40, they're going to see 49, they're not going to see 50. Now, there's a lot of savvy buyers out there. This trick has been around for a long time. It's certainly not an eBay thing. It's been around forever, but it is a good tactic to make something seem cheaper than it really is. $49.99 feels closer to $49 than it does $50 for whatever reason. There's a reason that all of these different stores out there across the world use this pricing tactic, because it does work. And I suggest you use it as well. But there's some other scenarios where you may want to use a different pricing tactic. The second pricing tactic that I use pretty frequently is called prestige pricing. Prestige pricing just means you're charging a premium for the item that you're selling. And so this works really well if you're selling something that is worth a lot of money, where the buyer has an expectation that it's going to be expensive. And so if you're selling something that is already a very expensive item, let's say like an Apple laptop, those things cost thousands of dollars. If you price that thing at like $350, the buyer's going to be like, wait a second, what's wrong with this? There's something wrong with this. Am I getting a lesser quality laptop, something like that? When you're selling a luxury item, you may think, oh, I really want to get this sold, so I'm going to price it underneath everyone else. That can have like the reverse effect that you want it to have, and it can actually scare buyers away. And so when you're selling something expensive in high demand that it comes with a high price tag, I would advise you to continue to price that thing high, because a buyer is going to expect that it is priced high. And if it's priced too low, they're going to think something's wrong with it. And the third is precision pricing. And that's what I used with this Ring doorbell, is this concept called precision pricing. I actually don't know if that's the name of it. That's what I'm calling it here and right now. Perhaps it has a different name, but it's when you use a very specific number to give the impression that you put a lot of thought into coming up with that number and making it accurate. The best way I can describe this is, think about a YouTube video. When you see a YouTube video that's like, hey, I sold $100,000 on eBay, you almost think like, okay, well, you didn't sell exactly $100,000. How much did you really sell? Like, are you trying to pull one over on me? But if I said I sold $82,465 on eBay last year, that gives you the impression like, oh, he must have actually sold that exact amount, because it's a very specific number. Same goes for when you're coming up with pricing on eBay. So there's some situations where you may want to use a sort of precise pricing to say like, no, this is actually priced really well, exactly where I want it to be. The reason I did it for this Ring doorbell camera kit is because the box was a little damaged. It was brand new. It had never been opened, but the box had some damage on it. I wanted to price it low because I wanted to sell it quickly, but I didn't want to fall into that prestige pricing situation where it was too low and they thought something was wrong with it. So instead of going with like $99.99, I bumped it up a little to $103.58 or something like that, just to give the impression that like, oh, okay, this is in a condition that is not exactly normal. And so maybe I want to give the impression to the buyer like, okay, maybe they price it at this spot, for a very specific reason. They put some thought into it. So do all of these psychological pricing tactics actually work? Do they actually do anything? I don't know. I'm not measuring these things. To me, this is part of the fun of selling on eBay, is researching these types of things, trying them out, seeing if they work. I recommend you do the same thing. I would definitely recommend doing the left digit bias pricing. I think that one definitely works. So if you're pricing something at $50, put it at $49.99. Follow the lead of literally every other retailer out there. It works. Coming in at number 2 are these lot of Levi's jeans. So y'all saw in last week's video, I picked these up at a garage sale. 6 of them right there. They wanted $5 each. I talked them down to $25. I usually don't negotiate at garage sales, but $5 each was just on the high end of what I thought these were going to be worth. I was, in fact, a little bit wrong. These were a little bit higher value than I thought. If this was just one pair of jeans, I would not have bought it. It just wouldn't have been worth my time to make, $5 or $6 on it. But the fact that there were 6 of them and they were all the exact same model, 505, and they were all the exact same size, it's a good opportunity to lot them all together and find a buyer out there who just wants to stock up on their exact favorite jeans and the exact favorite size. I'm sure that's what happened here. These sold for $104.98. I made a net return of $59.41 for the second best flip of the week. I paid $25 total on that. This leaves us with number 1, this Nikon Coolpix S8000 camera. Super crazy story. Got this at a garage sale in the 50-cent box. And so, sometimes at a garage sale, they'll have a free pile or a little box that says everything for $1, whatever. That was the case here. Everything for 50 cents. I was going through there, looking around, and I saw a little camera bag, and I figured it was just a camera bag, but it felt heavy. I opened it up. This was in there. I took it up to the table. I said, "This was in your 50-cent pile." She goes, "Yep, 50 cents. Like, okay, thank you. I didn't look it up, but I knew it was going to definitely at least be worth 50 cents. Turns out it was worth $131.75 for the best flip of the week. That's a net return of $102.65. That's why my ROI is so high this past week. This is really influencing it. 20,000% ROI because my purchase price was only 50 cents. I did have to buy a charger for it. You can see I spent $6.76 on eBay for the charger. Didn't come with it, so I didn't know if it worked, but got the charger, plugged it in, tested it, worked great. Who's selling this for 50 cents? Ask $5, ask $10. You would have easily sold it at that amount as well. It goes to show you, people just sometimes don't understand the value of things. And you just be surprised. You see this a lot of garage sales where certain things are priced up very high, but they just overlook the actually valuable stuff, like those vintage underwear as an example. Nobody thinks that vintage underwear are going to be worth a lot of money. You should think that this camera is worth more than 50 cents though. So I'm not sure what was going on there, but I was happy to swoop in and grab it. And yeah, made $102.65 for the best flip of the week. All right, let's take a look at the worst sales of the week. Looks like I sold a Tiger Electronic Quiz Whiz handheld game. $17, a net return of $3.14. I can't believe I paid $6 for this thing. Yeah, this was at St. Vincent de Paul. I think the vintageness got to me. I thought, well, it's probably worth some money. Turns out it wasn't worth that much money. $17.96 free shipping. Only made $3.14. That's the worst flip of the week. What else didn't do too hot? I found another Tamagotchi. This one was not nearly as good as the one from last week. Only sold for $14. I made $6.49, so not too bad. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you missed last week's episode, click here to watch it now. If you like these videos, I do them every week, so hit that subscribe button and join me next Monday. Thanks, and see you soon.